tell me a bit about the size of the CNN team that are here in Perth at the moment for this one story?
Yeah, well, we've got two centres for covering the story. We've got a big team in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, and we've got this team here in Perth. I'm not sure about how many people we've got in Malaysia, but it's a similar setup. We've got 24 hours in a day, and so we've got 3 separate teams, at least, and we're bringing in more people, actually, doing 8-hour shifts each, and that involves kind of correspondents, cameramen, producers. Plus, we've got a certain amount of sort of managerial oversight here, people who are sort of coordinating with our headquarters on a 24-hour basis as well. So it's a relatively sort of medium-sized operation, I'd say. We've got a suite at the hotel here. We've got our individual rooms. We're sort of spending a lot of money on it. But that's justified by the fact that we believe that there is a huge interest internationally in the mystery surrounding this missing Malaysian airliner, and a huge interest domestically in the United States as well. And so we've sort of committed, and I think we're one of the few organisations internationally that have done this. We've committed to providing comprehensive coverage of this story as it develops until it ends.
Really? And I guess that's a big commitment, because we don't know when this will end. The story could go on and on. Is there a sense of how long you might stay in Perth? How long CNN might stay with it here?
Yeah, well, it's not an accurate, science, an exact science, but we're looking at it on a sort of day-to-day basis. We're making our own sort of assessments internally about where we think the story may go. And I think these things go in peaks and troughs. I mean, we're in a peak of the story at the moment because there's a lot of intense activity underway out in the Indian Ocean, 1,000 miles off the coast of Western Australia, to try and find this plane before the batteries on the fingers run out. And so there's inevitably an upsurge in the amount of activity going on. There's lots of ships going around the area. They're on the verge, as we can see. I wouldn't be surprised that by the time your students hear this, the plane's been sort of located. And so we're in a sort of like peak period of the information flow at the moment of this story. And then, obviously things are going to dip down when the investigation into why this happened really gets underway. They recover the black boxes, and then they have to take them away from analysis. That could take quite a while. So once we reach the next phase of the story, which doesn't involve an intensive activity to look for the black boxes off the coast, I expect we may reassess our staffing levels. But in terms of our commitment to covering the story, I don't think that's going to diminish.
Matthew, you talked about the fundamental skills of journalism remaining the same, but the dissemination channels changing. Have you needed to pick up new skills so that you can tell your story in a different way, or at least submit it in a different way? Yeah.
I use Twitter. I call Twitter the wire service of the people. It's a great resource. For example, on this story, I've created a list of people that I follow for MH370 updates. It's a good guide. You obviously have to fact check everything that comes across. In fact, today we just saw an outlet that will remain unnamed said that the Prime Minister was going to come out and say that they had found the black boxes from MH370. And that set off a flurry of phone calls and emails to people trying to figure out if that was the case. Turns out it's probably not the case, but it gives you a good idea that one inaccurate tweet can bounce around the world in seconds and get picked up and possibly misreported. So I use it as a great tool to kind of get a sense of what's going on and make sure we're not missing anything. Twitter is probably the main one that I use.